So now that the LCS offseason is over and we are waiting for this 2025 season to start, I decided to ask you guys who you thought the best team in the LCS was, or the new LTA North. And I asked the Sheep Esports audience to power rank the LCS teams from 8 to 1, from worst to best. And in this video today, we're going to be going over the results and seeing who you guys think the best and worst rosters are for this next season. And then also maybe at some point we can look back and see what you guys got right and wrong and how accurate this thing was overall. But of course, first I want to mention real quick that everything we're doing here at Sheep Esports is powered by Holy, great tasting energy drinks that are also healthier than the competition. Make sure you guys go check out that first link in the description below to pick some energy drinks up. Obviously, we have those discount codes: SE5 for €5 off your first purchase, and SE10 for a 10% discount on your entire basket. So make sure you guys go check them out, and thank you so much to them for supporting everything that we're doing here. With that being said, let's get right into this. At number 8, we have Disguise. Now, this was one of the biggest stories of the LCS offseason, the fact that Disguise was going to be this new team, this guest slot coming in to the LCS. A very, very big deal. Obviously, Disguise Toast, massively popular content creator, streamer, personality, guy who was in the tier 2 scene and now getting his big break, getting a chance in the LCS. But also the big part for Disguise is that they're going to have to play in the relegation/promotion tournament at the end of the year. So it's actually kind of critical and kind of important that they do have a competitive roster, because this is not like franchising where you can just necessarily sit on your slot for years and years and years. You actually have to defend this thing, year in and year out. And you're going to have to fight off some pretty talented and hungry and fierce tier 2 competition. So Disguise, they're going with Castle, XU, Abadage, Scary Jerry, and Huhi. I think they're a nice mix of veteran talent, obviously with Abadage and Huhi, and young players as well. I don't necessarily think I would have them ranked as the bottom team, but I think anywhere in the bottom 3 is okay. I think there's a clear gap between the top 5 and the bottom 3, and that's what our voting showed as well from you guys. I think Abadage and Huhi, maybe you can argue that they're washed or past their primes or whatever, but I think these are two very strong players who have pretty much had very, very solid LCS careers. They're winners. They've done some stuff, and I do think some of the younger guys like XU and Scary Jerry, or the less experienced guys like XU and Scary Jerry, that will be able to learn some stuff from them. But yeah, overall, I don't think this Disguise roster is all that interesting or all that exciting, but I think it's decent. I think obviously they were working under some budget constraints and stuff like that, but you guys do have them ranked at number 8, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how good Disguise ends up being this season, whether they make any changes over the course of the year, and then ultimately how they do in that promotional tournament, because that's going to decide the fate and the future of their organization. Next up, we have at number 7, we have Dignitas. Here we have Surdy, Sheedon, Keen, Tomo, and Isles. Now, do I think this team is better than Disguise? I don't really know. I think this is close, and in our voting, I think it was pretty close as well. These teams were like 20 points apart, so it was kind of close, but not really that close. You guys did have Dignitas significantly above Disguise. I think Disguise, honestly, I might take them over Dignitas, but I think these teams are definitely on the same level. I think Surdy getting an opportunity is really, really exciting. I think Dignitas not ending up with Spica, to me, is a little bit disappointing. I think I'd rather have Spica on this team and Spica in the LCS in general than Sheedon. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, Spica has a fair share of his own issues and is maybe a little bit overrated at this point or whatever, but I don't know. Isles doesn't move the needle a ton for me. Keen, Tomo's, a solid player, but nothing extraordinary. The big question for Dignitas is how much of a beast is Surdy going to end up being? Is he going to be overrated, underrated? Is he going to, take a couple splits to develop into his own, or is he going to be a monster right away? I don't know. But overall, this Dignitas team, like I said, it's not that exciting to me. It's not that interesting. Definitely have them towards the bottom. Don't see any problem with you guys having them at number 7. Then at number 6, we have Lion Gaming. Now, obviously, we have, the LCS teams, the actual American teams coming in with some of those Latin American teams, and that's how we end up with Lion Gaming. This roster is pretty interesting, but also, obviously, I don't know a ton about a lot of these players, so this is like a harder team for me to rank, but you guys do have them ranked above 2 of those LCS teams. We have Licorice, Adi, Saint, Henna, and Lions. The funniest thing about this team is obviously Lions. I do think Licorice is a player I really, really like. He's a guy who has pretty consistently been solid. I think he's maybe a little bit underrated at this point in his career. I think it was a big pickup for Lion Gaming. I hope Licorice will be good, because when he's at his best, I think he is really fun to watch. But again, I don't know a ton about a lot of these players. It's hard for me to give too much of a strong stance. I can't wait to see how they play and perform in the LCS this year. But again, this is another team. So many of these LCS teams didn't really do anything that stood out to me a ton or is that insane or that crazy in this offseason. So Lion Gaming is another one. That again, this bottom three of Lion, Dignitas, and Disguise, you guys had them all very, very close. All seem pretty interchangeable. Is Lion at 6 fine? Yeah, sure. I think you could put 6, 7, and 8 probably in any order that you want. And it wouldn't be too egregious. At number 5, we have Shopify Rebellion. Now, this team is actually interesting to me. This is the first team that I think made some nice moves in this offseason. They picked up Fudge in the top lane. That was a big pickup. Now, Fudge, obviously the big question mark with him is how's he going to be able to rebound? How's he going to be able to bounce back? And how motivated is he going to be? Because it's something like even one of his friends, like LS, had said, that like a motivated, dedicated, locked-in Fudge is one of the best players in the West, but a disinterested, not fully engaged Fudge, is like one of these like paycheck stealers or whatever you want to call it. So I do hope Fudge comes back, like with a vengeance and bounces back strong and looks for something to prove with Shopify Rebellion. And if he does, this team could definitely finish in the top 4, in the top 3. But obviously, there's a lot of question marks here. Fudge is a guy who can be very volatile. Contracts is a guy who can be very volatile. Palafox is another guy that can be very volatile. All 3 of these guys have been at the highs of the LCS at certain points and at the lows or like the lower end of the LCS at different points as well. But overall, I think this team does at least have some type of chance if things go right to finish pretty high. We got B-Boy and Seos. I don't know exactly how you say that in the bot lane as well. It'll be interesting to see how this team plays out. I'm excited. I actually think Fudge, Contracts, and Palafox is a fun topside and a team that potentially could get some things done. At number 4, we do have 100 Thieves. Now, obviously, one of the biggest stories in this offseason as well was 100 Thieves. Whatever the heck is going on with them, are they going to be in the LCS for the future? What do they even want to do? What are their plans? How committed to the LCS are they? And this team just made one change. They just made one switch up, obviously going from Meech to FBI in the bot lane, but they're bringing back Sniper, River, Quid, and Ayla. So overall, I think it's a pretty strong roster. It's a nice, solid team. I don't think it's necessarily anything that's going to be able to compete for a world slot all that hard, unless things really go wrong for those teams at the top. So that's another kind of issue I have with a lot of these LCS teams that, FlyQuest and Team Liquid were so strong last year and went to Worlds and had some okay performances and stuff, and no one really made any changes to really compete with them all that much. So yeah, I don't know. This 100 Thieves team, it's fine, it's solid, but it doesn't really blow me away as anything all that interesting or all that exciting. Obviously, I hope Sniper continues to develop and becomes a beast, but other than that, there's a lot of players that are just kind of meh, and yeah, I don't know. They're solid. I would definitely have them ranked above, those lower tier teams, but am I like, oh my gosh, this 100 Thieves team, they could be amazing this year. They're going to do a ton of great things. Like, no, not really. I don't really see this roster as anything like that. Next up at number 3, we have Cloud9. Now, this team is very, very interesting to me because obviously they had 2 of the biggest losses of the entire offseason, losing Berserker, losing Jojo Pune. Obviously, they're bringing back Thanatos, Blabber, and Vulcan, but now they have Loki and Sven. Now, Loki is not the mid laner that a lot of people wanted them to end up with, so I think that is a little bit surprising, and people definitely have question marks about him. And then Sven, I do think he was actually pretty okay last year. I think he'll come into Cloud9 and be solid. I think Sven's a guy who always ends up being pretty solid and is a winner and is able to get things done. But obviously people are going to have questions of just how good he is at this point in his career. So I think this Cloud9 team is solid. I think it's fine. I definitely think they got worse from last year. And now, of course, the fact that the LCS only has 2 teams going to Worlds versus 3 is much worse news for Cloud9. So again, Cloud9 on paper, they're a strong roster. This team will win games. I think they are solidly the 3rd best team in the LCS. I don't think there's too much argument for them to crack into the top 2, but I don't think there's too much argument for them to be lower than 3rd as well. I think they're very, very solidly 3rd. But again, I don't think Cloud9 got better this offseason, and I think they were already a step behind FlyQuest and Team Liquid. So I think that's a little bit disappointing to me, and I wish Cloud9 would have did a little bit more. But obviously, it's very, very hard to replace Jojo Pune and Berserker. At number 2, we have Team Liquid. Now, this is pretty interesting because obviously Team Liquid was the strongest team in the LCS throughout most of the year in 2024. Obviously, they did not win the summer split, and then FlyQuest went to Worlds and proved to be stronger than them once again. But I know there's some people that have argued, just the meta at the end of the year was better, or FlyQuest had a better meta read or drafts or whatever. But Team Liquid is running it back with Impact, Umti, APA, Jan, and Core JJ. Amazing team, great team. This is definitely a team who can, win LCS titles. Definitely a team who can make a little bit of a splash internationally. internationally. We'll have to see this year how APA and Jan continue to grow. And yeah, this team is fun. This team is exciting. I'm glad that there are still LCS teams, remaining competitive and trying to do things internationally. Team Liquid didn't make any offseason changes, but I don't think they necessarily needed to. They just need to hopefully fix some, patch some holes, fix some of the things they did wrong last year, and I think they have a chance to bounce back and be really strong. But yeah, having them at number 2 is a little bit spicy. I don't know. It'll be really, really interesting to see because, like I said, Team Liquid was a better team for a majority of the year, even though they didn't end up being the best team at the end of the year. I don't know. I don't know that I would bet against Team Liquid just yet. But then at number 1, you guys do have FlyQuest. And again, just like Team Liquid is running it back, FlyQuest is running it back as well. Blippo inspired Quad, Masu, and Busio. Masu, it's going to be really interesting to see how he continues to grow and develop. If he can, really become one of the best players in the LCS this year, that would be very, very exciting and good for FlyQuest. Blippo, an insanely volatile player, but when he's at his best, he's super exciting, super fun. Inspired, might be the best player in the entire LCS, so you have him, you have a chance always. And for FlyQuest, it's going to be interesting to see, are they really that best team in the LCS? Can they prove that, the summer finals and worlds wasn't a fluke and it wasn't just a good meta and whatever, and that they are going to be consistently better than Team Liquid this year? They definitely have the confidence, they definitely have momentum going in their favor, and obviously the Sheep Esports audience as well does have FlyQuest as that number 1 team coming into the 2025 season. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Hopefully catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.